those who directly confront the powers that be as they champion the call for the marginalized of society while speaking God's word, truth to power. The preacher must confront the inequities of life, must confront the powers that be in life, and never be afraid that they've been called by God and that they're on a divine commission. It is not by coincidence that God told Moses, so Moses, I'll tell you what I want you to do. I know you're scared, I know you're afraid, I know all of that, but I want you to go back and tell big mean Pharaoh to let my people go. According to Walter Brueggemann, the task of prophetic ministry is to nourish, nurture, and evoke a consciousness and perception that's different from the consciousness and perception of the dominant culture which surrounds us. We're not supposed to be a part of the dominant culture. We're not supposed to be a part of systems that misuse and abuse other folks. That's why the preaching, the call, is so important. So important. The role of prophetic ministry is to criticize and energize. It criticizes by dismantling the dominant, conscious, and energizing person and community by the promising of another time and world toward which they can move. It gives us a promise. It gives us a sense of hope. It criticizes the injustice and the social ills of our society, and give voice to the wrong which it discovers. You're being called to speak volumes to the wrong of human life. You're being called and challenged to speak volumes to the oppression that's so often that's enclaved in human life. Prophetic ministry is a catalyst for transformation. Change begins by asking whether something is imaginable, not whether if it is feasible or realistic. Imagination is to precede implementation. In other words, prophetic ministry is counter to the dominant culture, which is usually hegemonic in its composition. One-upmanship, one ruling over another. The precipitous picture is one of Moses receiving a call from God with nothing in his hand but a rod, a crooked stick, a crooked shepherd stick that will eventually be used for liberation. God takes unusual things that time and uses them for his glory. God takes things that you and I were not even inside of. He uses them to bring about his purpose. In the curriculum before us today, perhaps there exist lessons to be gleaned, lessons to be learned for the preacher, lessons to be learned and remembered by Minister Robinson. And together at his ordination celebration. The book of Exodus means a going out. Latin name means a departing. The Hebrew says the name or the same name. Moses is the editor, compiler, if you will. And it is within this context that our protagonist Moses received and acknowledged his call to servanthood ministry. I remember the words of Thomas Oden. He said that when God calls us, there's an inward tug, an inward push, and an outward tug. That there's something that's pulling the toll of our life. There's something, some dynamic or some phenomenal that one cannot just debunk and just dismiss. That there's a tug here. There's a real presence upon the life that God. We all been there before. Have a call upon. And especially to the proclamation ministry. Egypt may be a metaphor or typology for the world and the worldly system. Just last week, St. James, we heard Dr. Bull talk to us about systems of the world. Egypt may be a metaphor for systems of hierarchy and hegemony. Maybe for systems of racism and discrimination. A system for religious idolatry, paganism, humanism, and atheism. A system where more or less, if we thought about it, parallels North American slavery, which has been the single greatest modality on black life in America. It's been a system or seen as a system that has an implication on our preaching. A system has an implication upon our Christian education. A system that has implication on the way that we do ministry, which we call our praxis of ministry. But a more paramount question: how do we find ourselves in? How is the Mosaic called to leadership to preach, to be interpreted? What does it mean for us contemporarily? What does it mean for us in our context? That we're trying to bridge the gap between Moses and Egypt and between Minister Robinson and his call to preach and to be ordained. There must be a connection. There must not be a divide between the biblical story and the contemporary fact that we're here for an ordination service. Something must speak volume to the life of the church. The life of Minister Robinson, to those of us who are in proclamation ministry, that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. That he changes not. Come on. Let's back into Egypt and then march into the wilderness. Amen. We want to back into Egypt, but we want to cross the Red Sea. We want to back up into Egypt, we want to march into the wilderness. You know the story. The story goes real quickly. I'm not going to take much of your time. There were 70 souls in Egypt. But the Bible says that Joseph was already there. Yes. Joseph had declared that his family would honor him, bow down, give him homage. I said, you must be crazy. I ain't bowing down if you can drink. Joseph, come on, preacher. Okay, keep drinking. Joseph is placed in the pit. Instead of being killed, he winds up in Egypt. Yes, sir. Joseph experienced the pit, the prison,